Hello, friends. We're in the first episodes of the Out of Step podcast. This is a space for those of you who live in the ecosystem of supporting other humans. So coaches, guides, mentors, facilitators, educators, therapists, leaders. I don't really give a shit what you call yourself. If you help other people, you're probably going to get something from these podcasts. And more specifically, this is for those of us who feel like we live on the edges of those maps, that we're kind of like the punk rock kids, maybe the hippies, the wild minds in the room, but the ones that don't want to just follow the norms. And this first couple of episodes, it's a mini series that I'm calling The Way Beneath the Work. And the purpose is to really help you understand the very deep, sometimes long and arduous journey of finding our true space, that true niche within this world, within this ecosystem, that really only we as an individual can fulfill. In this episode, you get to meet my brother, Sagewolf. And I have known this man for over 15 years now. And I have seen very few people in this world just have this level of transformation in their life in such a short period of time. And in my opinion, 15 years is a short period of time to move in the way that this man has moved. He is a devoted father of 5 awesome kids. He is a husband who really does the work, not just for himself, but for his whole family. And he's a really powerful guide for other men. He does work through Sacred Sons. He has his own men's work group in Salt Lake City called The Fellowship. And he's just a really incredibly powerful human being who I feel so blessed to know. Our discussion today is going to wind its way through this concept of community. And again, the whole idea of this first couple episodes of this podcast are really about helping us to navigate to our real purpose. And Sagewolf really takes us through his journey, both from being a little kid who wanted community up to now, where he is immersed in really incredibly potent community and also a leader of community. So I think you're going to get a lot from this podcast, and if nothing else, I think you're just really going to enjoy my friend Sagewolf. And as always, I just really encourage all of you to listen with ears and heart open, because I'm sure that some things that we share on this podcast are not going to perfectly suit your current beliefs. And that's kind of the point here, is I want to bring things forward that challenge you and give you an opportunity to try new thoughts on, try new ways and perceptions on. So, all right, enough of this long-winded intro stuff. Are you ready to meet my friend Sagewolf? I think you are. Let's go. All right, brother Sagewolf. I'm so stoked to have you on, my friend.
Thank you for having me on this. It's a pleasure to... every time we conversate, it's always like exhilarating and a pleasure to go back and forth, and your concepts and ideals of life is just like profound.
Thank you, brother. All right. So I'm going to start you off with 3 questions. And I know you've heard these questions before, but I just want you to share with us a little picture of you. So if you are operating from your most true and authentic version of you, and I mean that from how you know it to be today, currently, if you're operating from your most true and authentic version of yourself, what would you look like, sound like, and feel like? Give us like 3 or 4 words for each. What do you look like? What do you sound like? What do you feel like?
All right. What do I look like? I feel like I would look like a invited smile, like an invitation. Like I feel like there's a big part of me that's an invitation to self, to authenticity. I look like a father and a husband, for sure. I'm getting the grays in the beards and, getting that age. So I'm looking more like maybe just the beginning parts of elder in training type of thing. So that's the like visual. Um, yeah, and I look like a trustworthy companion and man or friend.
I love that.
hmm And then, what do I sound like?
Mm-hmm.
I sound grounded. When that comes to mind is when that guy puts these cool little things into a tree, and you could hear the wood moving, and like he makes music out of it, or you could hear the music out of the plants and stuff. And that's what came to mind for me. It wasn't necessarily 3 to 4 words. It's just like I sound grounded, like it's different, sound grounded and open and curious. I sound curious. I think in my tone too. Yeah, so those would be the ones for sound. And then the other one was
Feel. What do you feel like?
That's
Feel into that.
I'm feeling that, yeah. I feel calm, feel ready, and feel clear. I feel like a lot of times in my authentic speech, the felt feedback or response is like, oh, he's solid, like he knows what he's doing. I want to find that clarity, which feels good, because sometimes I'm like, thanks for the feedback, because I'm like, I'm in it just like everyone else, so yeah, so that feels good with those.
Awesome. Thank you for checking in. And I love those things. That's what I see and hear and feel from you for sure. And so I feel like you chose wisely.
Man, thank you. A+.
Yes. Gold star. What I wanted to focus on with you in particular with this series is this aspect of community. And I feel like you, out of anyone that I know, have been someone who have really leaned into the potency of community and family. And so I would definitely want to talk about your journey. And hopefully you'll share as much as you feel willing to. And really, how did community play into this? And really, like, how did that help guide you towards where you are today and the clarity that you might have today? So maybe just start from a big picture. If you look at the past, 7 to 10 years, what role has community played for you?
Yeah, 7 to 10 years. What came up for me when you started rolling with this, the topic, I feel like I went back to when I was more of a teenager kid, and my 7-year-old, he reminds me, and my almost 20-year-old, they remind me so much of how I, was, and the reflections I got back when I was young. I feel like I was a little prankster, but it was because I wanted to be with my friends all the time. I always wanted to make them laugh and feel good. And I always wanted to uh, have the right answer, or like, hey, let's have the plan. And there's two sides of that, then I started talking to myself about how, I'm not worthy. So like, I always had this like piece of wanting to have community ever since I was young. I've always, looked into being around people and gathering. I was really good at gathering in the way of like, hey, let's all go skate at this park, or let's all go, I wasn't always the planner, but I always had this like sense of wanting to have community or having bros and around me. Girls too, but it was mostly like when I was young, it was always like, yeah, let's go. Like if we went play tennis together, we went golf together, we did all the things, skateboard. So a lot of the times it was either me or another good friend of mine that was just gathering each other. So going all the way back to that, It's really cool because where I'm at in my life now, fast forwarding, seeing all these little chapters in like lifetimes, like different lives, all the way back then to like seeing the common thread through all of my life, and which helps me really hone in on my authenticity is like, oh, that's how it was when I was a kid. Well, that's how it was when I was a young adult. Well, that's how it is still today. There's the little pieces of it. It's just shifted here and there. That helps me really stay on the course and the clarity of my authenticity and, kind of give two shits what other people have to say or think, unless it's like really honest, heart given feedback, or it's from my loved ones or from you or, from my wife, my kids. But other than that, like, that has been a big umbrella piece of me in community, and the umbrella in that space of like, oh, I feel like I've always been realms. I wouldn't say it's a gift. It's like something that I just naturally am drawn to is community. So
Yeah.
fast forwarding it to, 7 years back. Yeah, I just wanted to give that a little bit of context. And then fast forwarding to 7 years back, even before that, I was in community, and it was just tough because by then I was most people, but I was definitely a different man than you see right now. And you knew me back then too. Still the same, like there's a thread, right? There's this thread, still the sameness and nuance of who I am. It's just slightly different. And, 7 to 10 years ago, I was looking for community, and it was more out of, look at me, look what I could do. I could do all the things, kind of like the little kid I explained, my little teenager. It's like, hey, check me out. And what better way to do it is in the hair industry or, in the fashion industry is like, check me out, all the shiny things. And, I worked at the best salons in Utah, one of them. I worked with you, and just chasing that community in that way too. And like the hair nerds, that was another community of mine before I really got into this community that I'm in now. So yeah, there's so many different pieces of that story of like my understanding of what community is, or how I moved in this world and naturally wanted community around me. Yeah, there was just a lot of little things.
Yeah. Sounds like from the time you were a little kid, it was something that you really desired. And I think most of us could probably relate to that, right? Like that's a basic human need, is to like feel that connection and feel community. And then you saw that show up later in life too, where it's like, oh yeah, there's still that desire for community. And you're so right, dude. Like the hair industry is really attractive in that way because there's so many people around, and it definitely plays to that part of us that likes to be kind of like shiny and, in front of people for sure. So after you were still in the hair world at this point, as you started to make your way into different type of community, where did you start to see that shift from more of that kind of hairdresser type of community to the communities you're part of now?
Yeah, it started in the hair community because I was blessed enough to have the talent to actually do hair at a level that was where I wanted to be, more high-end salons or, artistic teams, creative teams, and, entering Nahas and different stuff like that. I was able to like be part of that world in the hair world. And in that I had to like, I don't know if this is for everyone, but for me, I had to like grow tougher skin. I had to figure out how to like talk to myself better. So like there was more personal development. I remember The Secret came out years ago, and that was a big thing. And then the what is that? The collage thing. I don't even do that kind of stuff anymore. The affirmations and like putting my life on this cardboard or this piece of paper.
Like a dream board.
Yeah. Dream board. There it is. Yeah, and it's cool. It felt so good, and it was really, I think, what I needed at the time, my capacity of who I was. And then I think collectively as humans, we were at that, like, Tony and like, yeah, collectively we were at that like level of understanding of our power. And
Hmm.
so hair really did help me so many ways in presentation with, Paul Mitchell and the advanced cutting team and blah, 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 all that stuff. It really did help me transition into where I'm at today. And this is how, like, the books I was reading, because I wanted to be a better person behind the chair. I wanted to be better for my clients. I wanted to do better for the salon. I want to be because I already was getting the art down. So I was like, oh, I want to work on this part of, the job, the career. And so that started. And then I started with like building relationships with my clients behind the chair. And, a year went by, and then all the way to 5 years. And I started really getting to know my clients. Through that, it was like, they call it we're the therapist or whatever. And I never really, maybe it was self-doubt or whatever. I never put myself in that category, and it happens naturally too. Right. So I started realizing a lot of the things that the women in my chair were talking about their husbands or their boyfriends. I was like, I think I do that. Or I think I might. So there was a lot of healing in just like how, or like coming to understanding within myself through these books, through how passionate I really wanted to change. And in the community of hair and the community of my clients, the community of the salon, I was just like, wow, like I do those things. And so that started trickling into like coming home and having this contemplative like energy when I come home, and I was still like, totally different person again, with my wife and my kids, not super present like I wanted to be, not very irritable, and I project anger a lot back then. But I still had this like seed of like curiosity of like, wait, that lady was just saying that about her husband, yada yada, and then I'm doing this. Like, so it started connecting, and then my wife started doing like wet red tent ceremonies, the archetypes of women, like the crones and the maiden, and she was doing all this stuff. So like looking around, this had to be like 2016, and there was no men's nothing. Like Mythic Poetic, Michael Mead and Iron John and stuff like that. I was kind of reading, and even then, not knowing what I know now, it was going over my head. Like Iron
Right.
John was like, "Whoa, what is he even talking about?" But I was trying, right? So there's that thread of like finding my community. I keep like wanting to find this community to find myself, to be a better version of myself. And so it got to a point where I was online and I wanted to start a men's group. Didn't even know what that meant, especially back then, because no one was doing it really, at least in my field. And a brother of mine in the ecstatic dance community, which is a big part of my family, and that community is we've been with them for about 10 years now. Every Sunday, it's our church. Our kids go, we dance. Oh, side note. There's it's a melting pot of practitioners, healers, and everything that go there. So I met a brother there, and he's had this open circle thing, and it was so interesting. He was building community. So I went to him. I started hanging out with him, and we just vibed, and he wanted me to lead a men's part of the circle. That was cool. It was just my first introduction, but it ended up being like a group of men who was just bitching about our lives, and there was no it was just like, which was, I guess, needed at the time, because like it felt good. It was like, oh, we have a space to be heard. That's, again, at that time, I feel like collectively that was the step. Oh, men get to be heard and share and be vulnerable and start to really like feel this vulnerability, like, whoa, and it's like familiar but not like familiar. And so and then I just started like not appreciating my being away from my family for a couple hours to listen to all the things. So that was my introduction to that kind of community. and it was still so beautiful though. I was like, whoa, I want more of that. And then I ran into this organization, a small worldwide organization called Sacred Sons. And it was online. I saw them on Facebook. And I was like, what is this? And they all had the hats, all the things that I liked. The staffs, the hats, the ponchos, the mandalas, all the things, and the cool haircuts. Of course, I look at that. And I go and look at one of their weekends and their prices. And this is my mindset back then and where I was. And I reached directly out to Adam, one of the founders, and a bear who used to be one of the founders. And I'm like, you're just doing this for money. What about the men that really need? I messaged them that way. I was just like, I was in it, and because I wanted it, and it was projection. Like, why can't I make this happen? And they answered so well. I mean, now you know who they are and stuff. They answered so well, at least mostly Adam. And he said, just come through. Don't worry about the money. Just come through. And I went. And on that plane ride to San Diego, I'm like, what am I getting into? I have no clue. I just see men yelling and punching each other in the face. And I just want a men's circle. I just wanted to like gather with men. And I'm on the plane, and yeah, the rest is history. We could still talk more about that when I first arrived there and stuff. But yeah, that's all the way up to like 7 years ago. That was the first time I really stepped into this new community that I'm a big part of.
And, community can exist in so many different versions, right? And I love that you were able to see and that even your community of clientele was a place that served as a mirror, served as kind of a reflecting pool, right? And that was what instigated that aspect of internal reflection. Like, oh, wait, do I do those things? And, kind of kicking off that reflective aspect. Because I think that is such an essential piece to community, is that reflective aspect. We get to see things in ourselves that, this thing up here, the brain is really good at telling us what we want to hear, or blocking out the shit that we don't want to hear or see. And so it often takes something outside of us to go, hey, you might be doing this too, actually. And that started that trickle effect of like, okay, I need to find something more here. And, I know ecstatic dance has been an important part of that community. And again, that was a space that a lot of what you know about yourself now and a lot of the experiences you're having now, they wouldn't exist if you didn't step into that community, right?
Yeah. I feel like a big part of it, though, what I tell a lot of my clients now, or men in weekends, acceptance is a big part of this thread that I keep talking about. Deep and down inside, I've gotten better. I accept all the parts of me. I felt like I've always been gentle. I've never been a talker, and I've been in front of men. I've heard stories, and I've talked to myself in a way of like degrading, and like I'm my worst critic and all that. So I've been there. I also have this like knowing about myself, even when it's hard still, I'm still in it. But even back then, the way my thought process is, and how the verbiage, the words I chose to use back then, really, I had this soft spot about myself in my heart and like who I really was. And I was always like reaching for that. And I know that's something special I have. So when I talk on podcasts or on a weekend or on stage, I don't like speaking to everybody like, this is it. I know I'm gifted, I'm special, and everyone has their gift and their special thing. For me, it started with like being like honest, like accepting myself and being radically honest with myself. Like that point behind the chair where I'm like, oh, maybe I do that. One, I accept those parts. It's not easy. So if you're hearing this, it's not easy to always accept that and find that thread of like ownership and like, oh man, and then take action. A lot of men that I talk and I call in, I'm like, yeah, this is the codes to life. This is how you're gonna, this is what's helped me. Some of the men don't even think that they're that person. Like it's just, you know. So the biggest part for me, and I so much gratitude. I pray every night that I love like every essence of my body, my nails, my skin, and like how compassionate I am with myself, and how much more capacity I could have in that is the exciting piece. And so going all the way back, to like the community of my clients and radically accepting myself and radically taking ownership. Like I kind of skimmed over that part, but that's a big part, is like I owned that. And like I was really honest, was brutally honest with myself, instead of pretending. Sometimes in my head I'd be like, oh yeah, I did it, and just bypass it, and just keep doing the loop and the cycle. So that's what, and then I have this passion because I really do care. And I know there's people out there that are like that too. I'm just saying, for me, I just know I genuinely care. So there's this piece of me that's like constantly going for it, constantly wanting to improve, and constantly being, now I have men like you and women in my life, like my wife and her friends, that are constantly in this vibe too. So I just wanted to keynote that in there, because it's a very important part about community. Is it's like a polarity thing. Community's out there, but it's also here for me. Like I have to show up in community to have community. I can't just take the community and like, oh, it's all mine. I get to show up in my parts, all of my parts. And the best way I know how, out of all my communities, since I was like my community of skate friends, and we used to just do some wild stuff, all the way to like my community of my bros that still probably skate, and we all can skate together, but we're, more refined and older, that I just know that I get to show up. I get to have these pieces, and then the magic happens. Like, and then I am part of the community. I get to do my part. And so, that's the biggest part for me, is like radical ownership and just accepting the parts all over.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that into this, because that is really essential, right? Like we can have all the reflecting pools we want around us. If we're not ready to, or willing to actually accept what is being reflected back, then the power of the community, and it doesn't matter how powerful the community is out there, it's still within us, whether we're going to receive it. And then that piece that you're saying of radical ownership of, okay, it's in my hands now, right? Like if I own it, then I have something that I can do with it. I am curious, like, what do you think blocks people from being able to receive those mirrors, to be able to receive those reflections and accept it, own it?
That is a large question, my friend.
Yes, it is. Well, here you go, Sagewolf. Just answer this massive question.
Because it's such a spectrum, like it's case by case. And again,
I guess what was it for you?
Yeah, for me, because I'm like, again, I only go based off of my experience and how I experience life and stories and humans. I've just been in a lot of circles of men. I've heard some crazy, gnarly stories, and like most of them are how men were talking to themselves. Like it wasn't even like once maybe you're planting in your head right now as you're listening. It's literally ones of like self, mutilation and in words, and like, just sabotaging their lives after, and then they lose their marriage and they lose their house and they had everything. Like there's so many things out there that we could start with and talk about in why it stops. And most men, I just think how we're wired. This goes for, you identify a man, you move more in your masculine, however you want to be in that space. The masculine energy and how it's wired is, give me instructions, I read it, or I can do the thing, and then here you go. And then that's our providing, protecting, and, service. And that's just like very fundamental, very basic. There's so many nuances to that. I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of it is, if it's not experienced to a man, or like handed to them to like directly go or hit rock bottom, those are the things that stop. Those are the basic things that, if we were to sum it up, would stop them. If they haven't hit rock bottom, like, I mean, I love Utah. I'm a native to Utah. How long I've been here, originally from Southern California, but Utah men getting the fellowship together, getting this like in-person men's group together. A lot of men have it together. They have the picket fence, they have their business, they have the wife and the kids. So again, they don't think they're that guy until you go like, how's your relationship with your wife? How's the relationship with your, what's your intimacy level? You know, then they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, I haven't really, because they're so busy making the perfect leg. So that's one, is like the mask of having it all together. Always like
Right.
having, I'm good. I have the money, I have the things, right? The emotional body and the pain body just isn't really intact, right? And so they're just fully in the purpose of like providing and serving, which is beautiful, and it's lacking a little. The other parts are, like I was saying too, the rock bottom. If you haven't hit rock bottom, most men, and everyone's rock bottom looks different, and everyone could have multiple rock bottoms. I've had so many. Now my rock bottoms are my death and rebirths. So I'm blessed to like be in that field now. And so I think that's a big one too. It's like they're just moseying along life and just, well, I'll do that next time. I don't know how many times I've heard now that I've been on Sacred Sons podcast, and like they have the podcast, and I've been on weekends with him so many times that I've been watching, them on Instagram or listening to the podcast for 2 years and hasn't even stepped into an in-person event, or even we have online events and stuff like that. So it's just, they're just in that path of like, oh, it's not me. I haven't hit rock bottom. I feel like that's the most well-rounded way of answering that question.
Yeah. Fully, and I totally see that. I think that, because I work a lot with all genders, and I see this as something that across the board is something that it is challenging a lot of people, and I definitely see it a lot in men, for sure. That there's this, I love how you put it, a mask that, no, that's not me. I'm not the person that needs the group. I'm not the person that needs the therapy. I'm not the person that needs the coach. I got it all together. Like things are fine. And there's that protective quality of, I'm not ready to step in and see what I'm not ready to see. As you stepped into your experiences with Sacred Sons, especially those early experiences, what happened in those experiences that was different? That was like, oh, okay, this is a whole new level of community now.
Yeah. Oh man. There's so many. I mean, still, even just I was just in San Diego, EMX with some of the bros, and I'm on this side of leading too. I'm support or co-leading, and even just that weekend there's a threshold for me, and there's like so many things that come up, which is so beautiful, because like I know what's on the other side of those like moments. But my first one was my first EMX 2019. EMX is embodied masculine experience. It's just what we call a weekend. There's different types of weekends with Sacred Sons, for clarity. So I was at my first event, and I was, like I said, I was flying on that airplane. I was like, what the hell am I getting into? And then I meet this guy. We kind of text back and forth so we could rent a car, get to the location. And I still have the picture when we met at the airport and we took a picture, and we drove 2 hours, and that 2 hours was like, our conversation was so different from that after that, the rest of our lives. Because this brother named Wayne Barkus, he's my guy. He's the guy we still check in on each other. And he's doing amazing things right now in Austin, Texas with men's work and stuff like that. And so our whole ride was kind of like I was saying about our men's group. Like we kind of were like, oh, this is my life. It was kind of that crampy, heavy conversation. Like it's just like mostly me, I'll say that. And immediately it was just me and him. We're just like, because we're both like, what are we doing? We're doing this together. So he was my bro that weekend. We both checked in on each other, even though we had different accountability buddies. So got there, Adam Jackson, Earl, what's up? Gave me the biggest hug. And mind you, I just gave him that message of like, this is all for the money, yada, yada. He gave me a huge hug. A bear gave me a big hug. And J-Mac, he kind of like walked past me and said, what's up? I was kind of like, huh. So we have this brother dome. This is the experience that really changed it for me. It's like a big, you know, those playgrounds where they're triangles and you just climb up. That's a round thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a huge one of those. And that's before we got into ritual combat boxing. We had Wild and Wise from Trevor Springs, and he brought this playback, you know, to our lives. So we get in a circle. Again, I don't know what. I'm like, we're in a circle. I'm barefoot, and we're in the desert, and I'm in this big playpen. And it's like a bunch of men I don't know. And then they're like, point out a man here that you may have conflict with, or the story you're making up about him or whatever, that you don't like, straight up. You just don't like him, just from pure first experience. I was like, so that's what shifted. That was the first one. Is like, we went straight to like, oh, judgment. You don't like this person. Go meet it. That was the first thing that ever, like, I've never been to a men's, out of all the men's circles or even co-ed circles and events, go meet your judgment. And so I pointed to J-Mac, and they're like, and then we talk, and they're like, well, why is this man, you know, what's the judgment on this guy? I was like, he never said hi to me when I first walked in, you know, and it was real for me. It was like, yeah, you're one of the founders, and I talked to you before and you didn't say it. He's like, fair enough. And then we wrestled. I pinned him, and we're just going back and forth, dust in the air. We're barefoot, and it's like drums playing. It was very primal. And I was like, this is fun. And like, I pinned him, he picked me up, I picked him up, and I had him on his back. And I was like, oh, this was fun. And I kissed him on the cheek, picked him up, and we became best friends ever since. I ended up being his barber throughout the years. And that was an experience that I met fully of my judgment, or whatever I was saying to myself, that actually turned into like having friendship, because we met that hard conversation or whatever it was. So like, over the years, it started teaching me to like meet these conversations, meet these things that are challenging in my life, meet this community has predators in it, like meet them, show them what a real protector is versus a predator. You know, like how do we meet this with each other without the anger and aggression that the world says that men are scary about? We can still have that. We can still move into that direction with, you know, poise and, you know, high caliber anger as a protector versus a predator. So that was mind blowing. And then I had so many bigger moments like that, but that was the first thing that got me.
Yeah. I want everyone to take a breath with that one, just like a breath of like what that must feel like. Do you have to point your finger at someone that you've never met before and go, I got to charge with this guy, and then wrestle
on top of that, right?
Right. With like drums and, you know, dirt and like that primal energy. Like I just get a sense of like how powerful that moment had to have been. And I have an assumption and you tell me if I'm totally off with this assumption or if it's my story. But before that, at least for me, those judgments I would have just kind of like swallowed and held on to and let them kind of like sit in the background and carried potentially towards that other person. And that in and of itself, I don't know that I would have noticed if I wouldn't have had, I didn't have that same experience, but I've had similar experiences now of being able to come and be forthright about what is happening in my head. But was that true for you? Like before that, is that something that you would have potentially just kind of like tucked back in the background and had it sitting there affecting how the perception was?
That's the big part of my aha moment of like the charge was, had I not done that, I probably wouldn't have been as close to him or even close to him at all, because towards the rest of my time with Sacred Sons, it was like I was able to like connect with him on a deeper level. And this is the thing for humans, but again, like you said, you work with men and women. I work mostly with men one-on-one, but I have containers with men and women. And so I speak to men, but we all have a little bit of all this. There's this piece that is told to us collectively. Not all of us think this way, but it's told that intimacy is only sex. Intimacy is only, that kind of touch or that kind of moment. Me and Jason were really intimate. And even if it was just a conversation, there's an intimate conversation that breaks the bond of that judgment, or that if you go through that threshold of meeting that scary, what Andrew just said, let's take a breath, like that moment of like clench, meeting that and just being with that clench and feeling that and just going through it, there's a piece of intimacy in that way that makes humans bond deeper. And that's what Sacred Sons is all about. It's more of a somatic, hands-on, let's go and meet it. And it's a very beautiful way of doing it, because it's not like alpha male, which alpha male in our world is not what it really is. But the alpha male, like, go get it, keep going, just the hustle mentality. It's not that kind of meat. It's like knowing your edge and not faking it. So if it's not an edge, then you don't have to. If it's just a discernment of like, this is not it, then it's not it. But yeah, that was a big part of my judgment, because had I not done that, I would have went that whole weekend and just had that until he probably would have broke the ice. I've had that in my life. Like, I held it and held it and held it, and then finally the person was nice to me in the way I expect him to be nice, and then they're just nice to me, and I'm like, okay, they're kind of cool. Meeting him in that way of intimacy in that dance, like, broke that. He's not cool. Not only cool, he's my brother. He's human. We're on the same playing field. And then like gave me more compassion in understanding my discernment versus judgment. It's so pivotal to do this, men and women, but like I'm again around men, to see men crack like that. It's like,
yeah. And that story is, I think, a perfect representation of part of what I wanted to connect with you on, which is this difference between like this depth of, it's almost hard to maybe call it even, it is more of a brotherhood. It's more family, right? Versus just like our network of people that we might trust and like have a relationship with. But there's a different depth, definitely, that you're talking about with this type of community. What do you feel like has happened for you as far as like your own personal clarity, being able to have that type of depth of community versus just kind of associations, like just friends?
So it deepened my accountability, because after the talk, because I've been able to put gloves on with other brothers after that, in that are in leadership, that are always coming back to Sacred Sons, and been able to dance with pretty much everybody, and it sets the tone for me to like feel that adrenaline, to like feel that possible active or like trigger to like master it, because I'm in it. And I'm like, okay, now I can control myself more. It's really put me in this space of understanding myself in those moments outside of the physical intimacy. Now, like with my beloved, when she's wrapping up in her luteal, And I could just, yesterday she was all, oh, hey, what's up? Let's plan things. And then all of a sudden tight, stress, whatever. I don't take it personal. I've been in this before. I've been in this energy of like, oh, I feel it in my chest. I feel it coming up. I feel the things. And so it's been so pivotal for me to put reps in it too. Not just do it that one time, but just continuously meet that part of myself. If I didn't have community like that, I wouldn't have been able to sharpen myself in that way. I could sharpen myself by reading a book, going to like a weekend, workshop, and sitting with plant medicine. All those things are beautiful, and they have leveled me up in a way. And just that's why we say Brotherhood is a medicine. We do these weekends, substance free, sugar free, anything that's an edge for you that you lean on, free. And we find ourselves, that's the edge too, the whole weekend. And so just in those moments, really with the reps has sharpened me to a point like my life is cleaner. I don't like do any of the things that I used to rely on. And I had some gnarly things that I was addicted to, but also like now I'm like not even drinking coffee. I'm loving tea, and I'm just loving my own energy and the food that I'm putting in my body. And it took years of this doing that. So that's the thing, that one Russell with JMac didn't stop. It actually perpetuated me to go into community, to go deeper into like, how am I going to show, even now as like one of the leaders, I'm like, how am I going to show up deeper into this? Like even more so, how am I going to show up as a better father and a better lover and a better friend? I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to do this. And I have all these commitments. I don't think I would be this sharp right now if I didn't have the Brotherhood I have right now and the community here locally as well.
I love it. Yeah. And there's two things that you said there that, I'll be honest, I've had pushback in my own life on these two words. And one is accountability and the other one is consistency. And just, for those of you listening, I'm just offering this to you. Check in. As soon as you hear the word accountability and consistency, what happens in your body? Does it clench? Does it open? What happens? What's the response to those two words? Because I know that those were edges for me. So having this type of community, that those things aren't really negotiable. It's like you're either here fully, or we're going to keep calling you back in. We're just going to keep calling you back in. And so how do you feel like, and you did speak to this a little bit, but like, how has this community helped you to stay consistent and accountable, even when it's hard?
So going back to the consistency and accountability, if it activates something in your body, like Andrew said, sit with that and learn to, it's not even to be comfortable, just identify that feeling. Cause like even you saying it, I still feel it in my chest. I still, like, it's not like because I'm doing this, I'm like in love and I'm like loving everything I do, and I'll just go in a cold plunge because I love it. So I wanted to speak to that because there's different levels of accountability and you find yours. Because Anton, my brother, he was my guy coming up, and Wayne. So he was, in our leadership program, he was a little higher. He's been there doing the things and the training a little bit more. And we just connected. He's my bro. He still is my bro. And now his wife and my wife and our kids, we all know each other. Like it's like even deeper. And so me coming up, it was more mentor, friend, and he still inspires me now. But now I know where I'm at. I'm more capable. He's guided me. He's walked by me on this. Like with my cigarettes, he helped me with that. Like I was addicted to that. Like, he was just my bro, right? Kept calling me in. And now at this point, he has his things that I'm like, that's not my thing. Just because you're doing what you need to do for your life and your kids, and it's like the push, like all the things, the working out, doesn't mean I'm not capable of being an amazing father and husband. So that's why I wanted to speak to that, because when you're in a community and there's a man or a woman leading the charge, always check in to your authentic reality, to your edge, and say, oh, this is my accountability. This is where I get to go. Because you could burn out, you could do all the things, and it's not even your accountability. So really check into your accountability. And he, like, to answer your question, he was the one that really sharpened it. It's the whole container, but he and a couple other bros were the ones that like kept calling me in. And the reason why it worked for me is because, like, again, I really cared about the community. So like it got to the point where I had those radical honest conversation with myself. Is this cigarette worth more to me than my kids, my wife, my community, like, living longer, whatever it is for me? Like, that's my accountability, like that piece. Because me quitting smoking in that way, I do sit in ceremony with tobacco, but smoking in that way, doesn't mean I'm going to go do 1,500 push-ups and like go to do all the things and just quit right away. And I started finding my accountability. So now when we're at weekends and he's doing the things, I'm like, I'm good. Yeah, the Sally's, he keeps doing
Sally down thing.
And so like, and then I'm like, all right, well, I get to check in still. Like, am I doing this because I don't want to? Can my body do it? Oh, so this last weekend, I did it every time. I did Sally every time. I did it because I still want to sharpen myself. So I'm still keeping myself in tune to my accountability and really know my authentic accountability. Because if it's not for my body and my time and my space right now, and I'm still holding my bar and I'm still in alignment, that could still be a no. It's just as loving as my yes. And it's actually going to open up the doors for more yeses because I said no to that because it's honest. But if I would have said no to the Sallies and just like, because I'm lazy and I just woke up and I'm just like, it's 6:30 in the morning, I'm like, no, I actually want to be a better man. So I did it at 6:30 in the morning. I did the Sallies. I did the whole routine. And because I knew I was trying to sit back, I was being honest with myself. I knew I was trying to be a little more reserved when that weekend is not the time for me to be reserved, so yeah.
Yeah. And that's been something I've definitely noticed for myself too, is that I've gotten to a point now that I do feel really comfortable having those communities that can, and notice too, friends, that we're saying call you in. This is something that I first heard when I was listening to a podcast with Sacred Sons. It's not about calling people out, because that's putting them outside of the circle, right? It's calling people back in. Like, hey, you're out of alignment here. They take inviting you to step back in. And in the past, when I would get called in, defense would come up, right? And it was that insecurity. And now I've built these trusting relationships within community that I love the example that you shared. It's like, your brother might step up and say, hey man, like, where are you at with this? You now have that sense of sovereignty and that trust in self to go, you know what, I checked in, and yeah, that's just not for me. Or, hey, you know what, I checked in, and thanks for the call, because yeah, I was kind of laying back. I'm going to step in now. But it's that next step of being able to recognize and take that sovereign, honest, introspective view of, is this for me, or why am I resisting? Yeah. What's here for me? So I think that was a really potent example of, again, community helps sharpen that.
Yeah, there's a piece of that too. The call in and call out, it's an energetics too, because I've been called in a few times and I'm like, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this doesn't land for me. Let's like reword it or and so to me, the call out is more, I expect you, or I have a control understanding of what I want the outcome to be. Like, you're supposed to be doing this. And the call in is like, there's a compassion behind it because I fucking love you and I know you could do better. And here's the tone. So you could even see the difference in my body and like how my tone is because I do care about you. Or even if it's not you, it's the community and what you're doing to the community. And so the call-in is like, brother, you know better than this. I know you know this. And it's like a certain tone and different words that you use versus or you could use the same words. It's just like the energetics of like control and expectation versus compassion.
That's a great distinction. Yeah, it definitely feels like to me if someone's calling out, it feels like they're trying to be above, right? And call in is more of that, hey, no, we're on the same field
Walk
here.
side by side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I do want to get to this as because it's amazing how fast time goes on these damn things. I do want to get to this before we start to close up. How would you suggest that people create this kind of community? Because I bet there's plenty of people listening like, holy shit, I would love to have that depth of trust and like have people that really love me enough to shine the light when I'm out of alignment. But I don't know that a lot of people even know how to build something like that. Do you have any tips on how to start that process?
What works for me and worked for me is, I had the eagerness of like finding it somewhere, and I would go to different groups and co-ed too. And it's gotten to the point where I like it. And I was just talking to Shay earlier about, cause we're going to start co-ed stuff, about, I feel so blessed being around high caliber men that don't have their shit together. AKA really strong men that just face things, that when I go into different communities, if they don't have that energy, like it's like hard to explain unless you've experienced it. Last summer I've had like 5 brothers that wanted to start a weekend with me. And I was like, all right, let's get on a call. We get on a call. I'm like, all right, my check-in is my shadow up front. I'm not good with finances. And they're like, oh, like, whoa, we're starting like that. I'm like, yeah, I just want to know you. Like, I want to know who you are. And here I am, and then that was what was coming up for me at the time, and I really want honest men in my life. And so that's what I shoot for. And so I have to create it if it's not there. So I created the fellowship, and it's a slow burn. All of this, just like you're creating a business, not like the financial pieces. I'm just saying the timing of everything. Like we're in a world that is like instant gratification that I even forget that like, oh yeah, this is a slow burn. This is happening. I've been with this, the fellowship for 3 years now, and it's like barely just like happening, because I've been consistent, diligent, and stayed on it. So my advice would be, that would be the outwardly, like find your people by going, simply going and being in like the first 3 to 5 times doesn't count, because like that's what I've always told my wife too. Like I always want 3 bites of what she's trying to give me to taste, because the first taste isn't really it. Second taste is kind of like, but the third taste, I'm like really embodying it, really like my taste buds are really tasting it and feeling everything. So I feel like that in life, in the pleasure of life and engaging in life, is like show up more than the first, second, 5th time. Then you could really have that discernment of like, oh, this isn't really for me, or this is for me. It's really edgy and like, they're making me do what? So just show up. If there's not a local one, invite a couple bros to dinner and have a topic. That's a men's circle. And just like have a topic of accountability if you want to start that. The first and most important part though is it all starts with your accountability, how you're showing, how I'm showing up, because it's felt. Like if I'm going to show up and start this men's group, and like I was saying before, like some other men are amazing men and they're starting the group, but like the caliber like that, are you living in an authentic accountability? Like, are you honest with yourself? And like, it's felt. So just start with yourself. You can hit me up. I'm just going to throw Andrew out there too. You can hit Andrew up, and we could go deeper on that topic, but it really does start with yourself. And the deeper on the topic is like how to, like, what's the first step? Yeah, I'm more than welcome any man, woman to like have that conversation. But to wrap it up, show up and move your body and be there. and be the first to raise your hand, and just you get more out of it.
Yes to all those things. And this is a running theme, I think, throughout this entire series, is the willingness to keep showing up enough that we actually experience it. Because, yeah, there's so many protectors in place, especially on that first trial run. And it's like, okay, let's try it again. Let's see what happens. Let's keep showing up. And that is truly the way beneath this work, is keep showing up and keep showing up. And I love the other piece that you offered us, which is, if you can't find it, create it. And that was something I was called to, I kept saying, oh, I can't find a group for me. And it was like, okay, well, if you can't find it, create it. And that just does come down to like, hey, find a few people that are willing to go to dinner and actually have real conversations and start to model what it looks like to have real, deep community and connection. I love it. Well, my brother, this has been such an incredible conversation. I knew it would be. And I think that there's so much value with this whole concept of the role that community has to play. I can't even say it any other way. It has to play it. And I'm curious if there was one more thing in your heart that you felt called to share, what would that be?
Given the season, I'm just feeling winter solstice, hue, and like what I'm putting out there. We're all human, and I feel that there's this piece of our society, or just the life we live right now, that if you by chance forget that we're all human and we're all doing this together, we're all, no matter what level of human you are in your business, or how many kids you have, or how long you've been living life, that we all fall short, and it looks different for everyone, and we all like mess up. And so I just want to let you guys know that you got this. This is something that we are gifted to have and experience, and to change your mindset, just even on a conversation or a podcast or showing up consistently, and to feel the freedom of that joy, to know that like it's okay to fuck up and then get back on the horse, is so huge for me, as a father, as a husband, as a bro, as myself, as Sagewolf. It's how I talk to myself. It's okay. So my message would be like, you guys are killing it. Maybe I should say you guys are doing it instead of killing it. You guys are doing a fabulous job. And I know there's a lot of things out there that say all this shiny stuff, but I mean it like really, like, we're human, and we get to do this, and we get to have the dance, and we get to learn, and we get to fall, and we get to get dirty, and we get to be clean, and we get to eat food, and we get to have relationships with other people, even if it's somebody talking crap on you. Wow, is that true or not? Or like all these conversations and community. And so we're all doing it. And I see you guys, even if I don't know you, I feel you guys, my spirit to your spirit. I'm one of you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for waking up this morning. Thank you for getting up, even if you're still in your bed. Thank you for getting to work on time, or whatever you're doing. You're fabulous. It's working. And just keep showing up, find a community, and with that, big love.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sagewolf. I'm looking at a man across from me that I just feel so blessed to know. I see this incredible evolution that you have walked since those first days that I met you. And I'm just so proud to know you and be inspired by you.
Fully receiving that.
Much love, brother. Thank you for being a part of today.